lots of reasons for that. It's mainly because one day you're going to open the door of your truck, a bucket of stain's going to fall out on your toes and break your foot and spill stain on the sidewalk. You're going to have something.
Let me ask you this question: you ever use the homeowner's water hose?
No. Never.
Wow.
Never.
Why?
Nope. Because you're going to get stain on it.
Right.
You're going to get stain on their hose. I don't like that. It's you don't want to come home and pick up your water hose, water your roses, and you got a little bit of oil or stain or discoloration on it. So we like to use our own hose. First thing, hose. Second thing, yard sign. We like to put a yard sign in the yard. I feel like yard signs work better than Yellow Page ads for sure. They definitely probably work better than Facebook. They work better than social media.
Something on the fence, or
yeah. And the last thing I put on the fence is the fence sign. So it's a good idea to have a fence sign that says Big Joe's Fence Company, Walt's Fence Staining, Crud Busters, whatever you have.
And if the homeowner, I don't want a sign on my fence. The sign is your warranty.
Proof of warranty sign.
Proof of warranty.
Well, that's good.
If the sign's not on your fence, how do I know that I did the fence? How do I know you didn't have somebody else come in since I was here and redo your fence?
That's good.
So there's going to be people that fight you on it, and 1 out of 100 will fight you on it. That's too bad. But we say on our contract, you got to have a sign on your fence. There will be a sign on your fence. It's a small sign. We do a 4x6 instead of a great big one, so people are less likely to do it. When you put the sign on the fence, in my opinion, it is best if you're looking at the house and the driveway's over here in the garage, and they're going to pull in the driveway in the garage every day. Put the fence on the other side.
Yeah, that way the homeowner don't see it all the time.
Homeowner never sees
but
it.
People going by the house sees it.
Right. So it's much more likely to survive a long life over here where the homeowner rarely sees it, and all the people walking down the street see it, than it will be to be behind with a bunch of cars in front of it.
And if you want the warranty thing to work, on the back of your sign, just write the month and the year that you did it. And there's your warranty. If the homeowner ever took it down, say, oh, that's when it was done.
That works too.
And if you want to go another step, you can write the color on the back of the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kenny's got some signs like that. He'll show you with stickers on the back of it. So first thing I like to do
is stickers on his. I just write on mine with a permanent marker.
So when we pull the fence, open the gate, pull the hose through, or whatever you do, you're carrying your equipment, or if you're pulling a hose like this set up, I like to go all the way around and get away from the gate, go to the opposite side of the house and start over there. If you start right in the gate walkway, see how the ground's a little wet? How many times you've been in a backyard, it's August, and there's water right there between the houses because of the irrigation or whatever. So if you start working right there, you're going to be coming and going in that area a lot, and it just makes a mess. So it's generally, in my opinion, better to start on the other side of the yard, get all of that done, and work your way out. If you work your way out, you just tend to not have as much of a mess.
If you happen to start at the gate and you start pulling the hose through and it hangs and all that, well,
yeah.
If you do like you said, get the hose all the way pulled in, you ain't got to worry about hanging up on something and
I like
all
to
that
pull my
stuff.
hose all the way in so I'm not dragging it, so it's not fighting me. Degreaser. I like to have degreaser on my truck too. I like to have 2 pump sprayers, a 1 gallon sprayer with full strength, some powerful degreaser that'll take the paint off of a Cadillac for various reasons. If you spill stain on concrete, it'll take it right off. If you get stain on vinyl siding or on a car or on an air conditioner, it'll take it right off. I also like to keep a 2 gallon pump sprayer with 4 parts water and 1 part degreaser. And that does a really good job of you can pre-treat an air conditioning unit, you can put some on vinyl siding, you can wet brick down with it, you can wet concrete down with it. Degreaser is going to have a little soap in it naturally, so the soap it won't dry as fast in the summertime, so if you're working on a retaining wall or something like that, some degreaser can lay down, it'll stay wet longer. So degreaser is a good thing to use. When we talk about degreaser and water against the house, a lot of guys get into this fence staining because they think it's easy because they can use water up against the house. Who's seen that? You put water on the house, on the brick, and then you stain. The problem with that is we used to do that a lot. The problem we were running into is I would come back 6 months later and I would do the fence across the street, and I would look across the street at the fence I stained 6 months ago, and right up next to the house it was lighter, or there'd be a run where water had run down. And what I found out was I wasn't doing as good a job for customers I could do because I wasn't taking the time to cut it in. And so when you put degreaser on the house, wet the house down, and then stain the fence, and then wet it down, and then you go to the other side and put degreaser on it, and wet it down, and then you stain it, that's about 10 minutes of time, right? It takes 10 minutes to cut in the first picket on both sides of the brush. If you're Joey, it takes about 2 minutes to do it. So it's faster It's faster, maybe, but it's positively a better customer experience, better quality. You can also take a piece of Blue-On underlayment flooring. It's like a 4x8 sheet of thin veneer type plywood that goes under floors. And you can use it by itself, or you can mount some handles on it, like cabinet handles.
That's sweet.
I used to carry one in my truck, and I would drag it across the ground, and it's absorbent, so it doesn't, stain doesn't roll off of it. So you can take it and you can shove it between the house and the fence.
Yep. I've actually got one at the shop that I use on certain jobs.
So it's real handy, especially if you're a one-man show, because you can shove it between the house and the fence, and it's 8 feet. The fence is only 6 feet, so the top will hang down a little bit. Now you can take your water hose real fast and wet down behind it, spray the fence on both sides, wet it down again, no stain touched the house. If there was a little overspray that got on the house, you rinsed it right off. So that board was a lifesaver for me. I used it a lot. Masking, obviously, you can use clips to mask. I used to love using clamps to mask things. If you've got vinyl siding, you can use tape, but I like clips better on vinyl siding because you can look for a seam in vinyl siding, and you can open the seam and you can stick the clip in there and you can clamp your plastic to it. So just get creative with your masking. Go high, keep an eye out for the wind. Obviously we got some wind today, so we're going to worry about that. You can use a wind sock. You can make a wind sock. You can take a piece of this plastic and tear a strip of it off, or you can get some surveyor's ribbon. You can tie it to your antenna on your truck and let the wind blow, right? When the thing's blowing up in the air, quit spraying. When it falls down, start spraying as fast as you can, right?
That's very clever.
So that's something you can do. Also, there's nothing worse than when you finish a job and you're getting your customer and you say, come look at this beautiful job we did in your backyard. And you go out there and the first thing they do is they walk up to the gate and there's mud under the gate because you started in the wrong place. And also there's overspray, there's stain on the ground, all over the ground because of when you stain a gate, you got to stain it closed. You got to open it up and stain it. You got to hold it halfway closed to stain behind the hinges.
Yeah.
So you're moving this gate around and you're staining it from all different angles. And what happens is you get stain all over the ground. When you stain a fence panel, you get a little bit of stain on the ground, but when you stain a gate, you get a lot. So we recommend putting a piece of plastic, a piece of cardboard, a piece of something, drop cloth, something under the gate, and always stain with something under the gate. And
You'll think also too, if it's against the fence, you're not walking through that, you're walking through your gate.
Right,
and all
right.
that.
You're gonna walk through it, so you'll track it. So if you don't mask under a gate, you can walk through it, and you walk on the driveway, and you got a problem. And speaking of driveways, I recommend never carry stain across the driveway. Obviously, you can do it. You can be careful, but if you don't carry stain across a white driveway, you'll never drip stain on a white driveway, will you? So little things like that will help a lot. And so the first thing that comes off the truck is what?
Hose.
Water hose.
What's the last thing you put up?
Water hose.
Yeah, because the last thing you're going to do at the end of the day is make a mess somehow, But messes can be cleaned up. I was the best mess maker, so it made me automatically the best cleaner-upper. So if you got the right tools, water hose, degreaser, time on your hands, you can stop messes before
I'll
they
tell you
happen.
another one that I've learned. Don't open your bucket of stain at the truck, then carry it to the yard.
Oh yeah.
Don't open it till you
Oh
get
yeah, that's a big
get
mistake.
there. I had
would.
employed before spill a whole 5-gallon bucket of stain
Oh.
in their yard, but still, it wasn't on the driveway, but it was in their yard. It's killed the grass, and they got to walk through it. The dogs are walking through it. I mean,
Just a nightmare.
yeah.
That was even my question, how do you get that out there?
If you spill stain in the yard, if you spill a lot of stain in the yard, it's a problem. You can kill the grass.
It's gonna kill the grass. Yeah. Get a water hose and just drench it. It's still gonna kill the.
You could use degreaser.
I mean, it doesn't.
But the best, so what you're going to notice is you hear that motor running.
Yeah.
Right now, you hear that? That's our machine. It's a great Titan 8900 or 6900.
I think that
It's
was
60. That's a small one. So it's a big gas-powered machine. It'll run a couple of guns, but all the stains in the truck, all the buckets are in the truck, all the mixing takes place in the truck, and the hose comes out here. And we're using this hose. Obviously, we use these. The coatings, the jacket's coming off of it. We always put the worst hose at the end, and we use it till it starts looking about like this, and we'll replace it. This one will get replaced because the season's about to start. But this is like 2,500 psi hose, something like that. The low pressure hoses that some guys use are 300 psi hoses. The clear braided line. It's real neat and it's real cheap, but it's real fast and real easy to break. And the last thing you want to do is have a gas-powered stain machine running, pumping, or even a 12-volt pumping, and you break a hose. And all of a sudden, you don't have any pressure on the end of your gun, and you go, "What's going on?" And you look back, and your machine's spitting stain out on the street at the most
I've
expensive
done that. I've
neighborhood
learned that
in
one the
Nashville.
hard way. No stain coming out. I'm just taking my tips off.
You're looking.
looking around. Come to find out, my damn hose busted up there and done 5 gallons of stain.
It looks like one of those snakes, you know. It's doing this. There's stains going everywhere. Yeah, so those are problems that happen. When you pull your hose into a backyard or down a fence line, what have you, I like to pull my hose all the way down across the yard. Now I'm not fighting the hose as I go this way. My hose, all the slack's pulled out, and then I can turn my gun down and point down because we want to spray the top of this fence. I can just walk right back to the beginning, spray at the top of the fence, all the way back to where I want to start. Now I can start staining. And there's 1,000 ways to stain. We'll let Joey stain, we'll let Cody stain, and we'll let any of you guys stain. The reason we like penetrating oil-based stains is, number one reason is they're easy to use. Because how many fence guys we got here? How many power wash guys we got here? How many painters we got here? Okay. Who wants to be a painter? If you're not already a painter, right? If you build fence for a living, painting is scary. Who likes painting their house? Who likes cutting in around the windows? You guys are weird. You guys are weird. But what I'm saying is it takes a finesse. It takes, you know, when I paint my house, like I throw paint into a leaf blower and blow it on the wall. You know? That's how I want to get it
When
done.
I paint my house, I hire somebody.
Yeah.
I gave you my card.
So point being is penetrating oil-based stains are self-leveling. They're easy to use. You don't have to mask as much stuff off because like the gate hinges, we can spray them. It goes right on top of them. You wipe it right off. If it's a metal post, it goes right on it. You wipe it right off, or it'll even run off sometimes. So runs. We had this full of runs. There's no runs left. Jeremy come up and sprayed just a few minutes ago. That's what the dark spots are. But these stains really will self-level. You can spray it right on. They self-level. I dare anybody here. We'll give somebody $100 if they can mess it up, because you just can't mess it up. You can write your name in the fence, draw a smiley face. It doesn't matter.
So would that mean no back brushing needed?
No back brushing is needed. Now, you'll use less stain if you back brush, and a lot of guys do back brush. But the majority of people that use these type of stains that are not painters and that are not people who grew up in the trade of painting or staining, they don't back brush. Do you back brush? Lazy. He does not back brush.
But we were talking about it. I think we are going to start.
So what we've noticed about back brushing, what we've noticed is the old timers always back brushed. Everybody would say you got to back brush. You need to break the surface tension with a brush to get the stain into the wood. Well, this stain will push water out of the back of the board. It'll go all the way through. But what we found is that if you look at jobs 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, the areas that were hand brushed or cut in were a little bit darker, just a little bit, than the other areas. What we also noticed is that guys who were religious non-back brushers started back brushing using, you name it, any kind of stain you can think of. The guys that may have been in business for 10 years, staining fences every day and didn't back brush, once they started back brushing, they said, we use less stain and our jobs just look better. They just look nicer. So something to consider. You don't have to do it, but it's definitely something to consider.
Definitely the longevity thing. You're talking down the road, back brushing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we back brush. We started back brushing in Nashville
We
this year.
started doing that, yeah.
Yeah.
So we started
So-
doing
Do you charge extra for that?
No, but we sure do give a better customer experience when we do it. And so we got a pole on a stick with a brush on it. You can go pretty fast with it. It doesn't add that much time to your job.
Are you hitting every sled and beam, or are you just?
Yeah. So when we're back brushing, we're not. All we're doing is moving product around. And if you got a knot that sucked up a little extra stain, if you got a spot, maybe a little bit of a. Maybe you got a lot, like see right here how this is puddling up on this top rail. We're just hitting it. And we're just coming through here. I mean, it's quick. It's not a really slow process. It's just we're smoothing things around. Just a quick back brush. It's not like we're being a Picasso and we're trying to really, really do a great job. We just want to push that stain around. We want to level it out to do those things. If you spray it and don't back brush it, that's okay. if you get a thin spot, maybe you got a thin spot, you got to put more stain on it to get rid of it. Well, if you're back brushing, you'll just hit that thin spot. You won't have to add more stain. And also, 2 eyes on a fence is better than 1 set of eyes, right? So if you got one guy staining and one guy back brushing, the guy back brushing, he's going to see something that maybe the other guy missed. So it could save you time on the end of the job. Definitely save you all that. So I think back brushing is not a bad idea.
With your stain, if it wasn't back brush and then you later spotted a light spot and then you hit it with a brush, would it flash or would it just go right in?
Right in.
Yeah.
Blend right in. So these stains, so inside, you guys walked in and it smelled like a paint factory earlier. You smell that? Wasn't my fault. So I apologize for that. That was that pre-stain machine. They cleaned it out with lacquer thinner inside the building. And that's what that smell was. That's why we moved the machine outside. But if you'll notice, when we spray this stain, you're not going to smell anything. There's no solvent in this stain. Tiny bit of solvent, but we don't add a bunch of solvent to this stain like other products. And so what we've done is we've got more oil in it. So some guys that make stain that stink real bad, they say, well, it's not a good product if it doesn't stink. Well, think about that for a minute. What costs more, oil or solvent? Right? We put more oil in this stuff because the oil is what conditions the wood. It keeps the wood from cracking, from warping, from twisting. That's
That big thing, people want eco-friendly nowadays. That's what it is.
Yeah. And so another benefit we don't talk about enough is when a fence is wet or just maybe a little too wet to stain, but you did it anyways. What happens when you stain a fence that's too wet? It doesn't last very long. The reason it doesn't last very long is those stains with a lot of solvent in them. The solvent is what they use to carry. That is the carrier, not the base. It's the carrier. Carries the stain, the sealer, into the wood. Solvents don't penetrate water and they flash off pretty quickly. That's what they do. They're designed to evaporate. So you put a solvent-based stain on a fence, it flashes off because the wood's too wet, and now there's nothing left to carry that color into the wood. So you'll notice with stains that use 0 solvents, Armstrong Clark is one of them. What do they say? They say 20%. Stains like ours, we have less solvents. So we can put our stain on the wood, and if it's a little bit wet, it's going to be more forgiving because it's not going to dry. It's not going to flash. It's just going to sit there until the fence dries. We've stained fences in Nashville, and water pushes out the other side and the stain goes in. So the stain pushes water out.
What's the moisture content it's got to be at now?
Well, we're going to tell you 13% because that's what everybody tells you. But I know that we see guys doing fences that are 20% or under, and they're not having any issues at all. We've stained some stuff up that was ridiculously wet just to see what would happen, and we've not had any issues with it. I would never condone that sort of behavior, but we're R&D, right? We got to figure out what are the limitations of the product. So something to keep in mind, you know, if it's a stain that is low in solvent, it will be a little more forgiving on wet surfaces. I recommend never push it on a deck, but on a fence, if you got a schedule loaded out with 120 jobs and it's going to rain the rest of the week and you need to get it done because this is the driest day of the week, you can push that limit a little bit with a stain like this. But don't push it if you're not willing to warranty it. That's the way I look at it.
I pushed it all the way to 18% one time and had no problem.
Yeah. Well, in some places,
And every region of the United States is different. The humidities and all that's going to, you need to learn your area.
some places you can't get below 13% because South Georgia, it's fog that you can't see through till 11 o'clock in the morning, and then it's 120% humidity. If they get it down to 15%, it's unheard of. So 18% may be as low as they can get it down there. You may go, in Tennessee in the wintertime, we can get a fence that's 10% moisture. But in the summertime, we can only get it down to 13, and we can't figure it out. Well, it's because there's less humidity in the air in the wintertime. So,
Kind of related to that, do you need a pin or a pinless moisture meter, or does that matter?
I don't think it matters. I personally,
I always use a pen.
I always grew up with the pins, so for me to,
They're cheaper.
it's kind of
I
like,
don't go above 20%. That's my mark. If it's going above that, I might be risking something. And if it does do something in 6 months, it doesn't look good, that's on my name. I want that sucker to look perfect when I leave, no matter what.
Yeah,
And
so-
I've succeeded with 19 to 20, but that's as high as I will.
so there's some rebels out there that do crazy stuff. But if you try to do a good job, I think follow the brand.
Question. During summer, when it's warmer, like you see all the top sprayed, if you're gonna stop on a job, lunch, whatever, do you need to finish that panel, or can you come back and it not, will it level out even though it's sprayed before,
Let's find out.
No, I mean,
I know what you mean.
I've seen that. I'm just saying, like,
Okay, so you're
if it
staying in
sits there for an hour.
Let's say you're staying in a fence and it starts raining and you're halfway done and it starts really raining and you got to go home. It rains for 2 weeks. You come back, you can stain it, pick up right where you left off.
it's gonna cover
It's gonna blend perfect. If it starts raining on a job, I recommend if it's just a little drizzle, you're halfway done, it's 90 degrees outside, the fence is dry. I bet you've done it, Walt.
Yeah.
Go spray the top of the fence. Anything the rain's gonna hit, spray it, get it done, finish this job. Because, you know, do you wanna come back over 3 panels? I will, but chances are we can get it done before the rain affects it. So, anybody got a bottle of water? So, this isn't a good example. This is really, really wet. I'll save it till the end because I want to show it to you when it's fresh. If it rains 5 minutes after this goes on, it's good.
if that stain's completely dry, what I'm getting at is you come back, and that's how you left it. You come back the next day, whatever, something happened, emergency,
Yeah,
and you respray over that. Is it going to hide that, or will you see that?
you won't see it.
It'll level.
I mean, obviously, if you do a really light coat everywhere else and a really dark
Yeah,
coat
but if,
there, you will.
you know, you put it
Yeah,
on.
it won't matter. It will not matter. Time is the only thing that'll make the difference. If you came back 6 months later, you'd probably notice it. But no, these stains, they're non-drying. So as this goes into the wood, this oil is not drying. It's staying wet inside the wood. So you can activate it at any time. It'll do it. You've been there. You've had that problem. Yeah. So
I personally, I like to get to if I start a run of fence, I want to get to the end of that run. I mean, I don't like to stop and start in the middle of a run. I'll stop at the corner, but I don't like to stop in the middle.
here's what could happen, and you say that to a good point. So, what happens in a bucket if you let it set on the shelf for a week? Your stain settles, right? You got to mix it back up. So here's what could happen. You could, let's just say you had to go for whatever reason, and you just left your machine sitting here. You come back the next day and you turn it on and you started spraying. Well, the stain in the line's going to separate. It's all the pigment's going to settle because of gravity, and the oil's going to be on the top. You start spraying, it's going to look different, right? So,
Right. And I've always taught my guys, even if you go to lunch and you lay your hose down, when you come back, just spray into the bucket until you know you got
Yeah, that's good.
recirculate.
It's a good idea.
That's good, yeah.
I never rinse out this hose ever, but I always flush it out into the bucket. You know, if I've got 100 foot of hose or 200 foot of hose, I'm gonna flush that whole thing out. And start
Until new
spraying.
products through.
Because what's in the hose is gonna settle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I recommend following what Walt says because he's been doing this a long time. Kenny, what'd you think? So tell us about fence staining in Texas.
It's fun. Come down and join us. Again, I
You can work year round.
apologize for not listening before because it's so warm. Wait, hasn't everybody already been here once?
There's a new crowd, man.
And you guys can take over. Have you talked about protection? Car condoms. Car condoms?
Oh,
I don't know if you guys mentioned that.
wow.
I think I got some condoms in the. I don't know.
They are 100% effective.
They are 100% effective. They will not make baby cars. So, all right, yeah. Basically, it comes down to client, customer service, client. What's the word I'm looking for?
Experience.
Yeah, client experience. So it's basically, and I think I mentioned this last time we were out here. It's basically what the client is going to see, not what you're going to tell the client. So we can tell the client when we apply this, hey, this is going to protect, your fence is not going to rot, whatever. If it doesn't look like they want it to, that's a big deal. So this is a stain that you can apply one coat, you can flood coat it, it's going to look great. I do a 2-coat. You always want to make sure you get under your rails, on top of your rails, along the house. Sometimes, so in Texas, and probably a lot of places, when they build fences, they'll attach this to the house. So it's probably best if you back brushed it, or if you can, if you look over there, there's a roll of cardboard. It's called Ram board or X board. You can cut off some of that, slide in between the house and the fence. You can spray up against it. Sometimes you can't do it. You either back rush. Some companies will take and just spray and then use mineral spirits to clean off the house. It'll get on the fence a little bit. We have a lot of steel post in Texas, so we spray and then we use mineral spirits to kind of clean off the post. If you get it on the rail, it makes it thin. Again, this is client experience. If it's thin, you got to come back and just make sure you cover that. You always want to step back and look from where the homeowner is going to look. I think it was Cody who mentioned he did a fence one time and the homeowner could see it from the second story. On the top there was a missed spot, so you just want to make sure that you go back to the deck or you go back to where they're going to be looking and see if you notice anything that stands out. And so you just want to make sure you get full coverage on that. I do a 2-coat application. Most companies do a 1-coat application, but I'm going to come through because I'm right-handed. I work right to left, and so I'll spray all the way through. But then when I go back and do my second coat, it's a quicker coat. I'm going a little bit quicker, and I go back the other way. And that's just to hit at different angles. We got a lot of board-on-board fences, so we always want to make sure that we hit both sides of that board. That covers it. So my first coat is, I call it my flood coat. Second coat, I call it my money coat, because that's what they're paying for, or you call it your color coat, whatever you want to call it. So you just want to make sure that you have a good 1-coat application is like this, split it on. We can do that, go through, and I think Caleb talked a little bit about back rushing. Again, it comes down to the client experience. You want to give them what they paid for. A lot of companies in Texas, they don't. They come in real thin coats because we're trying to get 175 square feet per gallon. Don't skimp on your stain. Don't skimp on the product.
That's the stainers that charge 25 cents a square foot versus 75 cents.
That's what I was going to ask you about when you do 2 coats. So do you add that into your bid as a second coat, or do you bid a 1 and a 2 coat?
That's me automatically.
That's you. So yours is automatically 2 coats.
You're putting 2 coats on.
If you're putting 2,
a customer loves to hear you put 2 coats.
I've had some clients where they've been cost conscious. They're like, oh, it's fine, just do 1. If a client was persistent in that, like they didn't want to for any reason, would you do that but not warranty that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Don't come off your price. So we can do 1 coat. It's going to be a flood coat. Warranty's not going to be the same.
Okay.
You can knock a year off or whatever.
Pricing
You're still going to
won't
get the
change.
same amount.
Pricing won't change.
Yeah, you're still going to get probably the same amount of life expectancy.
I'll say might as
out
well
of it,
then. Yeah.
But it's just, hey, you're telling us to change our ways.
Yeah.
So we got to take something away.
Okay.
And like Sean was mentioning, you don't give a discount for it. Okay, if you want that, we're gonna adjust something.
Could you have?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Could you do have one? I've had a few clients in the past. They wanted their own stain use. They purchased it, and they don't actually want to apply it. And I've also had those same people speak about warranties. Well, would you warranty it? I've always gone, I won't. Like, 'cause I don't know what it is.
You do not warranty the stain that they buy.
You do not warranty.
If it's not a product that you're not comfortable with, don't warranty. However, if they say, hey, we got this stain and we want you to use it, a lot of companies will say, sorry, we don't apply that. And I'm just the opposite. If it's a stain I've never used, I say, I've never used that stain before, I could do it, here's what the price, here's my labor price going to be for that. And then that way I get experience with that stain. That way when the next customer says, hey, we got this stain we want to use, I can say, I used that a couple months ago. It's crap.
Yeah.
I have experience with it. But if it's something, Bear, for example, I'm sure everybody's used Bear. A lot of people hate Bear. It's one of those things where you say, if you've never used it, say, yeah, we can. Never used it, but we can apply it. It's the same process and everything. Well, a little bit different process, but we're going to apply it, and then you're going to pay me for labor type thing. I charge a little bit more on my labor end of that, so it's really they're not getting much of a discount. But yeah, I'm not afraid to use somebody else's stain.
Now, different stains probably don't go as far, or some go more.
So yeah, you have a lot of stains out there that claim to be penetrating oil-based stains. So Cabot's, Olympic, some of those stains, hey, we're penetrating stain. There is no defined definition of what penetrates. You can penetrate as thin as that paper or that plastic, it's penetrating. So we call it penetrating stain. You can call water-based solid penetrating because it penetrates just a sliver, but it's not penetrating stain. So it's a film former, and some of your stains like Olympic, Cabot's, were penetrating stains, but you can't flood coat it like this. So the advantage of flood coating is we can flood coat this, and matter of fact, this had runs on it earlier today.
Yeah.
And you can't see them. Where Cabot's, Olympic, if it had runs on them, you'll still have runs on them. If you're doing a deck or something like that and the spindles and they're dripping, you're gonna have these big solid, and they're gonna come out and we got these big spots all over here. What happened? Well, it dried and now you have to come sand it off and redo it. It's a pain in the butt. With flood coating stains, they're easier to deal with. You have to experience those in order to know how to handle it. So if I'm spraying this fence with Cabot's or Olympic, I'm spraying it and then I'm definitely back brushing it. With this, you don't have to. You just spray it on, keep going. Wipe off the hinges and gate post, move on. So yeah, that's water-based. Totally, water-based is just like painting a house. If somebody wants a water-based, like semi-transparent, how much you pay for the fence, let's double that price. That's what I'm going to charge you because I hate it.
Yeah.
You had
All
to
this
back
stuff.
brush it. And,
You got to mask everything.
Yeah.
If the paint gets on those hinges, you're going to be sitting there scrubbing.
yep.
with
And
the
then
extra.
if you hit this spot, oh, I missed the spot, come back and hit it. Now it went from a semi-transparent to a semi-solid.
Yeah.
It's just a pain to deal with them. So.
Your coverage rate versus a flood coat versus a two coat process. Is the coverage rate about the same?
About the same.
You just learn how to adjust right how you're going.
Your speed and
your speed.
that last coat that I do, I mean, it's not quite 400 square feet per gallon, but it's a thin coat. And it's basically, what it is for me is, it's me walking back through my project and making sure I got all of it covered.
I've
but
seen
pops.
I've seen people do it the two coat process the way Keeney's explaining it. You know, going and then coming back and going real fast. And I've seen people do, okay, I'm spraying 2 pickets. I'm moving over 1 picket. I'm spraying.
Oh yeah, so
moving
you're
over
50 on
When you
each.
get 2
Yeah.
coats
So
Yeah.
yeah,
on the at the same time.
you spray your gaps first, and then you spray your facing. And that way you make sure you get everything, yeah.
So there's different ways to do 2 coats. I mean, you know.
Well, it seems like every fence I get the stain, they've got so much shrubbery around it, you can't get through it, so.
Yeah.
It might be a good one to flood coat, so you don't have to go
So
back
yeah,
and forth.
when I'm working around, if there's shrubs here and I'm working around it, and the shrubs come up to here, I take my wand, I bend it, and I'm just flood coating it. And I don't care what it looks like until they pull those shrubs out. Because I tell them, you need to cut the shrubs back 12 inches for me to get back there. And, well, we can't do that. Okay, we're just flood coating it, don't care what it looks like, but we're gonna have it protected. And you make sure your client knows that.
That's good.
If they say, well, they're eventually gonna be pulled out, go ahead and pull them out. That way I don't have to work around it.
Does 2 coat reduce your bleed through on the other side, or can you control it better?
No, so 2 coat, so you have a 2 coat flood system. If you want no bleed through, we'll do a no bleed example later on. But you'll want to go really fast, 400 square feet per gallon. It's real light.
Sometimes they'll take 2, sometimes they'll take 3.
Yep.
Coats, you know.
And there's a process to it in order to prevent that bleed through. So
I got one question, and it's about cleaning
you've
at
already
the end.
had 6.
I know, like one more won't hurt. At the end, you're running an oil through your hose. Are you running mineral spirits out through your hose at the end to clean? No?
No, with this, you don't have to. With Cabot's, Olympics, stains like that, you have to.
Any film forming stain, you have to flush your hose. A penetrating stain, you don't have
Because I imagine it would take a lot of mineral spirits to go for a 50 to 100 foot hose, like quarter to half a gallon, and you just have to run it through.
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
That's why you use a
It don't
flood coat.
take much. Not taking much adds up in a year's time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
So what do you push it through your hose?
Yeah.
You don't. This stain here, you don't have to. You
So
don't
when you
have
get
to
to the job and you have a different color, you just spray this in a separate bucket and get the color you want?
So you'll figure out how much, in a way you might do it is, before your first job, let's say you have 100 feet of hose or 200 feet of hose, you'll go ahead and fill your hose full of water, or your pump full of water, and then stick it in the deal, and then you have a separate bucket and start pumping out water. And you'll see the stain come through. You'll know, okay, I need to pump out a gallon of stain every time I change colors. And so what I do is, if I know that's a gallon, I pump out a gallon into a separate bucket, and then I'll switch it back into my main bucket and flush it a little bit longer, because there's still going to be a little bit more of the pigment that's in there. The only time I really flush a system with like mineral spirits or something like that is if I sprayed a gray stain, like slate gray or something like that. Now I'm going to flush it out and try to get all that gray pigment out, and then I have a junk stain, which is just dark brown stain. I'll run it through, and then I'll go back to whatever stain color we're running. That way we slowly go from gray to whatever color we need to be at. All right, knock it out.
Woo! We do the whole thing, or y'all want to spray a little bit? First thing I do, I hit these bars. You want to hit all those under it. And I keep mine.
And you don't have to hit them real heavy.
No.
You just got to get something under there so you don't have a white
So
line.
it's not naked.
Yeah. So we're running at 1225 yet. So this is a 1225 tip. It puts out a lot of product. You'll go quick. It won't take you very long. If you're just getting into it, you might want to start with like a 515 or a 517, something a little lighter. It will take you a little longer. You won't be able to knock this out quite as fast.
Tip wise, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, on the tips, on these air lifters. So if you only have a little bit, leave it with the client. If you only have a half gallon.
What's your trash thing?
Oh, my trash stain? If you have somebody that wants a job done at 10 cents a square foot, I got this real crappy stain. Pay me labor and I'll give it to you. Or you get a real dark stain, like let's do a coffee stain. Buy some black stain,
Yeah.
some walnut.
Oh, would you mind?
Together.
Of course.
This is one time only. This is the latest and greatest craze. Coffee. Yes. Yeah, you adjust your pressure, so you can take your pressure. So it might be running at 1500 psi. You just adjust your pressure and it takes it down. This right now is like a Graco 8900 or something. It's a gas. Okay. Your max tip is probably 17. Use a 1223, but it's that company's just going to cost
I'll top on the bottom.
No, you got it. You got it. Just hit it real quick. Right. There you go. Now we're rocking it. You get to the top, let out. You get to the bottom, let out. Because that's a lot more of a spray.
Okay.
Let out. Come back. There you go. And the more you do it, the faster you get.
As a new guy starting with you, train guys, how much things do you typically use as a new guy to kind of figure things out?
I mean, I use maybe something like that, maybe just to give them that camp leeway because they might be a little slow.
You got the good angle.
I want to have something.
Something you might want to go at?
I will. If I get a chance. Looks like a lot of people.
I'm not sure they're going to do double side though.
You think so?
I'm not sure. Like, so I do a lot of paint spraying, and talking about tip sizes, I could feel the difference of that versus what he was saying at 515, which I use. Like, if you look at the top corner, it comes out so fast, so you would have to move quicker. Yeah.
What is that one? 250?
This is a 12 something.
Oh, 12.
Yes. So meaning it will give a 24. So it's 12 inches. So it's gonna be you double that number. So it'll be a 24-inch width. So a lot's gonna yeah. So quite a lot. And this is what probably about 6 inches. I don't know. Yeah.
So you really, that's
Yeah.
quite a bit. I guess they are doing the other side.